Record this computer. Awesome. So we are live here with Jim, my very good friend, and it happens to be a person that, if you guys recall, when we were talking about Amazon drop shipping, he took the plunge and he's doing really awesome. So I'm going to let him tell you about his success. But first, let me just talk a bit and get first, Jim, into your background. Like, how did you first get started on Amazon? Tell people what you've tried and how that went about.
I tried retail arbitrage, and I didn't really, even though I didn't enjoy going around scanning everything. It was just like you have to go label everything, you have to go ship everything in, and then you have to wait for the stuff to sell. I didn't really enjoy that because you're putting out the money, and then you're waiting for the money to come in, and usually comes in about 60 to 90 days later. So you go out and spend $4,000 or $5,000 at Nike, which I'm ungated for, and then you turn around and the orders will go out obviously one at a time, and then it'll take about 90 days for a lot of the stuff to sell out, and if the stuff sells out.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously retail arbitrage wasn't your favorite thing. So what sort of interested you about the drop shipping model in general?
It's just the fact that there's no money up front. Number one. Number two, what that means is people pay you first before you pay people like Kmart or Sears for the products.
Awesome. So obviously you enjoy Kmart and Sears.
Yeah. And I what I really enjoy is getting the points on the American Express card.
Got it. Fantastic. What are you going to use those points for? I'm just curious.
Maybe if you go to China, I'll go to China with you and go on a sourcing trip.
Fantastic. Yeah, China's always fantastic for sourcing. Let me ask you this question. What attracted you to the drop shipping model, say, versus private labeling?
Private labeling is still of interest to me at some point, but I wanted to have some sort of success story on Amazon first before I took the plunge to spend $10,000 or more establishing my own brand, which is still my intent. The profits from drop shipping will allow me to expand my store and probably get ungated in other categories. So as a hire brand managers, I'll be able to make my own brands and other stuff that I'm already ungated for.
Awesome. And now let me ask you this question. So people don't know this about you, but about to tell them a little bit of your background. You've got an extremely successful sales team. You sell a lot of things for a lot of people. You got an extremely successful email sales team. You got a really just overall good, solid business. But what in general attracted you about Amazon?
What attracted me to Amazon was just the fact that it's something that I can do pretty well much myself. And then also have it's a hard question to answer, but probably just the fact that it's something I can do myself with really minimal associate interaction, except for my VAs that I have, which I now have 12 of them.
Right, absolutely. So I know we're talking about, like, you got lots of successful businesses, and you obviously already have a team of 12 VAs. What advice do you give to a brand new person? Is this something that you would recommend they start doing, or what do you recommend they do?
I'd recommend they take a look at the drop shipping program that's offered here, and take a look at how to list products yourself using the video training that's provided, and then once you have like one or two orders, you have your success there, and then some. Consider hiring one VA at a time. I actually hired 7 the first time because I wanted to scale it, and I figured, well, the guys that are doing 100,000 a month, well, all their stories were like talking about scaling. They all started with 5 to 7 VAs. So I thought right out of the gate, I'll start with 7 VAs. Fortunately, because I was able to afford it, and VAs are relatively inexpensive. And one of the things that I really like about this particular business, which I apologize for not answering earlier, was the VAs that I have, they really want to work, and they don't call in sick, and they don't whine, and they don't think they're entitled to stuff. And whereas the American worker typically thinks they're entitled to stuff, they want benefits and all this kind of stuff. So I like that. I like that a whole lot. And I gave them the whole week off at Christmas time with pay and to spend with their family. And they were they valued that a whole lot as well. So I hope that answers your question there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that you just gave that was like a golden piece of advice is like most people, they see like you having this great success, or they hear about some of my private label success, and they think that it's easy to scale that big, that quick. And I think it's like a huge misconception. So I think some of the advice you just gave was pretty golden. And that is like, get started just one step at a time. Yeah. I thought that was like some of the best advice that I've ever heard, because, you know, like we saw when we got first into drop shipping, people scaling it to $100,000 a month in as little as 3 months. And so it gets you excited and you want to ramp things up, when in reality, you don't know the person's entire background story. Like, you know, you don't know how much they invested or anything. So any advice that you could give people in terms of, like, you said start with one VA at a time. Anything else you could give them to do, like if they didn't have a VA, or afford one?
Just excuse me. Build your business as you can afford it. Get a good credit card to purchase your stuff with. And you don't want to use a Chase or you don't want to use a Visa or MasterCard because they'll put fraud holds on your account. The credit card that's most friendly to this particular drop shipping method is American Express. And I've tried all the MasterCards, Visas out there, and they all put fraud holds on your account. So you want to get a decent credit card with a decent limit. One of my other coaches that does drop shipping indicated that he started out with a $3,500 credit card limit with his particular program, and now he's doing about $200,000 a month, and he now has an unlimited one. It doesn't always start that way. So start your business with, if you want to get a credit card, if you don't have credit, build your credit with a secured Visa card or a secured American Express card. They're available out there, and then just go from there. Because the year from now, you could be doing $200,000-$300,000 a month in business. The profit margin, and one thing I'll indicate with respect to that number, that's gross sales. And everyone that talks about Amazon says, you can do 100,000, you can do 200,000, that kind of stuff. But always make sure that you understand what the net numbers are. So your net numbers on $100,000 in sales are typically probably going to be about $15,000 to $20,000 by the time everything's said and done.
Right. And so how about like points? So can you just explain to people what you mean by like points? Because there's some people that might not actually understand that.
You're talking about credit card points?
Yeah.
Yeah. American Express has the best program for points. When you buy stuff, there's two different ways to do it. Which respect to credit cards. Membership rewards program is what American Express offers, and you can use that to apply against the balance of your statement, or you can use it towards airline points, or you can use it towards the purchase of other merchandise. And one thing that's also you can use it for is the other program that credit cards have, American Express, is you have other types of rewards where you can use it towards your balance. Typically, it's about 1% towards the balance for any point or membership reward point that you have. American Express also has what they call the Plum Card, which is gives you a 1.5% discount off the off the statement balance if you pay early, and then they give you flexibility on payments as well.
Cool. Those are some very cool tips. So let me ask you this question. I forgot to tell people, you actually peaked, I think you had a $90,000 a month. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that was 3 months before. It was like $500.
Wow. So I know you said that you have 12 VAs now, but how many VAs did you have when you hit the $90,000 a month?
7.
7. Okay, so you had that original 7, and that 7 is what helped build you to $90,000 a month. And obviously,
Yeah.
some of those sales were Christmas sales, but you still managed to. That's quite a feat, as you just mentioned. 15 to 20% of that is what you probably earned. Like that's the actual money that you put in your pocket.
Yes, absolutely.
Plus
And
points.
go ahead.
Plus points.
Yes, that's correct. And the points, I just put it back towards the balance. It was like 1.5%, so, or 1%, and that was good. And I get about 300,000 points a month from my other business as it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. So, in general, let's talk a little bit about your actual, like you have some very interesting strategies that I've seen as you kind of shared like some of this information with me. But can kind of take people a little bit behind the scenes, and obviously you don't have to divulge all the information, but kind of take them a behind the scenes look at how you go about actually deciding how you're going to like handle product selection. Do you just tell your VAs, hey guys, go out there and find products? Or do you have some sort of strategy dependent, like what niches they're going to get into, or do you assign them a niche, or how does that go?
I assign them a particular store, and then if they complain about not finding any profitable items, I move them on to another store. So typically, I'll keep them on a store for 2 or 3 days, and then when my VA complains about 4 or 5 times about not finding any profitable items, I'll move them over to something else. The other thing is the bulk listings. Sorry, the bulk. Buy something in bulk. What that means is food items in particular. So if you buy a six bottles of peanut butter, Jiffy peanut butter is an example, a brand that probably everybody knows. Well, you don't make no money on one of them, but you'll make probably $15-20 on 6 of them. A lot of the times that people buy all 6 just for convenience, it's actually priced out more than what if you just bought 6 individually, and because it's all pretty well the same shipping cost. And number 3, the most important thing is on a listing. I always go on listings that are 3 or more people as well, and I always use a return that has at least 5%. I used to do 3%, but it wasn't worth it, so I went to 5% return on any individual item. And stuff in the auto category is pretty well wide open. Stuff in the stuff in the auto category is pretty well wide open as well.
Right. So I guess that's because there's a lot of people that don't actually get their accounts ungated in a lot of categories. I know you for one are pretty obsessed with getting it ungated in as many categories as possible. So what advice do you give people that are just starting and are seeing some frustration because they can't get ungated in, say, auto or?
Just start by doing retail arbitrage like what I did, and then over time, as your sales evolve, you'll automatically get opportunities to get ungated when you're. Let me start over. You'll find that through time, you'll find that you'll be getting automatic ungating approvals, and I found it took me about 2 years to start getting that, and typically sales in excess of $50,000 a month will get you that. That's what I found. And last Christmas I was doing $50,000 a month and didn't do much with it over the term of over the term of the year until this year, the drop shipping was introduced to me. And I found that the more sales you do, the more auto approvals that you get to get ungated. And then also Amazon seems to automatically ungate you for stuff too without even telling you. And how auto gating works is in if you scan something at a store, or you're using Scanlines or what have you, and you find a product that you want to sell, and it says you can't sell it, just go to the approvals page on your Amazon account, and there's a spot there that says request approval to whatever it is. I'm not sure offhand. A request approval to sell, and then a lot of the times that'll be ungated after you've been doing it for some time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think there's also like certain periods of time where they'll just automatically ungate without you having to do anything, just for clicking a button, and people aren't even actually aware of that.
Yeah.
Just click through buttons. I know you're a big button clicker when it comes to getting approval. So I know that you've gotten approved with even a lot of big brands. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah. Nike is one of them.
Yeah. How did you do Nike? Like a lot of people were did you actually have to send in receipts or anything, or did you just get auto approved?
I just found I just went to the Nike store and started scanning stuff, and I just found out I was approved to sell it just a few minutes before I decided to go.
Oh, wow. So that's pretty lucky. So that's kind of one of the perks of actually having an aged account where you've been like working in it and trying to actually do stuff in it. Like you said, retail arbitrage. And I think I told you this, Jim, but I think one of the biggest like hacks that most people out there should be doing when they decide to start learning how to drop ship is selling retail arbitrage items, even if they're just breaking even on them. Because I think when Amazon sees FBA for sale on your account, it pretty much eliminates a lot of the risk. Like FBA sales and seller ratings. I think I've talked to you about this theory. What do you think of that?
Well, I would agree with you because do you mind if I talk about some of our previous conversations about that?
Right ahead.
We had talked about a brand new accounts, obviously is what you were just talking about, and people with 5 ratings or less, or 5 reviews or less, or whatever the case was, they were getting number one, intellectual property complaints, whatever they're called. You know the term better. And then they're getting negative feedback for whatever reason, and Amazon was automatically suspending them. So what we discovered was, because this happened with me, because I was sending stuff in, I would go to, during the hurricane, my wife and I went to, as an example, went to Mississippi, and we went shopping and sent all the stuff into Amazon for sale. So it gave us something to do. We made a few $1,000. And that was our FBA trip, if you will. And so that was a lot of our FBA sales. And we built up a lot of reviews just from doing that. I built up like about 75 reviews. So I wasn't getting suspended or anything like that. And also to that end, my late shipments went up to like 8.05%, whereas the standard should be below 4% for late shipments, and I never got suspended. And right now my pre-cancellation is up to 11% because I had my store turned off just for a week because I was away, and that never got suspended either. So there's a lot of variations if you're a seasoned seller, is what you're just talking about, because they probably just see it as a blip on the radar screen.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found, and this is what we've had in our conversations, is that if you have a brand new account, what ends up happening is you don't even have to, and you could do all the Scanalyze checks, and people know what I'm talking about. Scanalyze will tell you whether or not a product has some sort of like trademark, or you're not allowed to actually list it. And you can even have your VAs or yourself do the Scanalyze check. Everything looks good. And next thing you know, you'll get an actual, like, you'll get shut down by Amazon saying you have the following 3 products listed on your account that infringe upon somebody's intellectual property.
Yeah.
They'll ask you to do a plan of action. But we found that in a lot of those cases, those are just like auto-generated by some sort of like bot or like some algorithm sets them off. So it's not even that you're doing anything wrong. You just don't have enough history, and your velocity, the amount that you're selling as well as the amount that you're listing, is just too quick for Amazon. So having FBA stuff for sale helps because Amazon knows that you're not trying to scam anybody. You're sending things into Amazon, Amazon's shipping them out, and you like eliminate that problem. And I know I talked to you about that before, Jim, but which I said, like the advice you gave earlier about going slowly, that's why it's just such gold advice, because we see people having great success and hitting high numbers really quick, and we get so excited about it that we want to do the same thing, not knowing the entire background story. Like you being able to achieve 90K, you've been actually using this Amazon account for quite some time. It's pretty aged.
Oh yeah, it is. And the other thing that's important is, as you said, everybody's background. Everybody's not the same as me. Everybody's not the same as you. And your story is you used to be, in your story, you used to be a card player, and you found Amazon, and the rest is history, if you will, especially with your PL products. One of the things that you just talked about is the intellectual property. I have 11 intellectual property complaints and never got shut down. One of my other coaches talked to me. Oh, I seen somebody with 50, and they never got shut down either. But as you just said, the new accounts, well, if you don't ship stuff in, they're going to think you're scamming people and all this kind of stuff. So it's really important to build up your ratings legitimately. And yeah, you're going to get some negative reviews, that kind of stuff, but that's all part of the business. You just try and get those people to remove the negative reviews too.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, because you're one of the few people. So everybody that I've listened to in the space always says, if you get an A to Z seller complaint, just pay back the money. It's not even worth it fighting that. But you, however, you actually decided to fight a couple A to Z seller guarantees you got, and surprise, surprise, you won. So you want to tell people and walk them through the process of how you were actually able to do that?
I just basically stayed in my case, and what happened was some brand owner bought their product and then wanted me to refund their money while keeping the product. I had originally got it from a third-party source, which they sold their old stuff to. And so they came across my listing on my store on what turned out to be their listing, if you will. And they ordered the product, and they filed an A to Z claim, and they said I wasn't allowed to sell it and all this kind of stuff. And just repeating what I just said. And then as part of the complaint, they wanted to keep the equipment and get free money for it. So what I did was I contacted seller support, and I said, "What about all this? And here's what's going on." And the guy at the seller support, nice guy in Manila, was talking. Well, that's an abusive buyer. So I had, first of all, had an abusive buyer complaint filed against him, and then number two, I stated my case in the Amazon Amazon thing. I went back and forth with I think with you and someone else about what to say, because I wasn't sure what to say. But you just state your case specifically as to what happened. Don't go into more detail than that. And then in this case, I filed an abusive report, had her own account suspended, her own buying account suspended, and her sales account suspended because of it. And I won my claim because I just stated the facts. You don't put up with abusive buyers.
So let me ask you a question, Jim. Abusive buyer, how are you able to file that case? Was that done through calling Seller Central?
Yeah, that's what I did. They said we'll file a report for you.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I've never heard of an abusive buyer, so that's a pretty golden tip here.
Yeah, and I talked to the guy for like total conversation. Probably one thing about seller support is they'll stay on the phone for you as long as you want them, as long as you talk to them. You know, if you're talking about how sunny it is outside, they'll talk to you about how sunny it is outside, but right to the point. Uh, uh, he told me what an abusive buyer was, and it fitted the description of what I told him, and that's really it. And if someone another form of abusive buyer is someone says is try to intimidate you into, well, I'm going to contact Amazon because you're trying to scam me and this kind of stuff. Well, just file an abusive buyer report against them. And you can do that in the email, or you can just call up customer service and do that. And the customer service is pretty good at responding back to that kind of stuff.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think you did this actually twice. Didn't you win 2 A to Z seller guarantees?
A to Z, yes, I did. And actually a third one that Amazon funded themselves as well. And they never took money out of my account. I just stayed in my case. And the fourth one, I got the buyer to remove because he didn't want to file that itself. I just phoned him up and I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, your toolbox didn't get delivered. I was trying to resolve it for you." And he didn't even know what an A to Z claim was, and he was just looking for a refund, and he withdrew it. And then I shipped him whatever it was after the fact, and on top of that, I sent him a $25 Amazon gift card for removing the claim.
Well, that's awesome. Obviously, Amazon wouldn't like that if they found that out, but what they
No,
won't hurt them.
no, that's right.
So yeah, that's pretty awesome, because as I said before, everywhere that you listen to or hear, people are like, just don't even bother with it. Just refund the money. Just try to get it off your record. But you're the first person that I've known that has successfully been able to fight those off, which kind of maybe shows that Amazon is starting to pay attention to the actual seller as well. And they know that there's abusive buyers out there. So that's kind of like good news for everybody. So pretty awesome, Jim.
Well, I actually had it that way. One customer service person one time, and I said, "What you're doing is abusive. You're abusing your buyers," and I guess the rest is history after that.
Yeah, awesome.
I told him that too. So because there was something else that was going on, I said, "You're doing buyer abuse here. Sorry, seller abuse."
Yeah, awesome. Amazing stuff. So let me just ask you a couple more questions that I have. What do you see, what do you see in the next 3 months? What are you working on, and how are you going to implement it?
I've just increased my staff, my VAs from 7 to 12 VAs, and I hired a project manager. And what I want to do is solidify my listings in the U.S. market with the staff that I have. And then once I'm doing probably about, during the regular season, $30,000 to $40,000 a month, which will be in the $30,000 to $50,000 a month, which will be in the next 3 months. I'm hoping. I want to establish a Canadian team, and then a UK team, and then an Australian team. The Australian team is pretty well wide open. Sorry, the Australian stores are pretty well wide open because Amazon just got introduced there. So I want to take the drop shipping global because I figure if I can make decent money in the United States with as much competition there is, I can take this business pretty well global and just and also go into non-English speaking countries later in the year. And it's just a matter of getting good VAs that speak the respective language, because it's pretty well easy to set up an international account. And a lot of people don't, understand just how easy it is. My only handicap for me is understanding the language, which you can hire people to do that for you.
Right, absolutely. So you're going to take this global. That's pretty awesome. Let me ask you this question. Where, with that being said, I guess kind of like seems like you see that the future of drop shipping is more like from a global perspective. And do you basically mean like if there's an Amazon in Australia, you would
Yeah,
drop from Amazon Australia Walmart to Amazon Australian like person, right?
yeah,
Awesome.
and the same with India, and the same with China. Um, you just have to understand the cultural differences as to how they're doing business, because the products are entirely different.
And other than an international like expansion, like what you see for yourself, what do you see the future of drop shipping on Amazon is? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that say like Amazon's putting a chokehold on drop shippers and they're trying to eliminate them. But how do you see that play a role, and what do you actually see as the future of drop shipping?
I see it as a good viable business from the standpoint that anybody can get into with minimal investment, and then build a career from that. So if you just got, I see it as someone that's, well, if you will, on the street now, homeless. I see it as someone that's got, it can go from homeless to a Lambo in 4 or 5 years, uh, if they just pay attention to what they're doing, and um, go with the flow and learn from your mistakes, um, and learn how to respond to the appropriate questions that are out there. Well, my stuff showed up in a Walmart box. Well, I'm sorry, sir. We just ran out of stock, and I just ordered from a third party vendor just to meet your the demand that you placed with our store. So you really have to be careful about how you respond to some of those questions as well. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Two last questions. One is, what are the advantages that you see drop shipping with Amazon versus doing the e-commerce Shopify drop shipping?
Uh, Amazon, there's more. They got about 300 million unique visitors every month. They got that go to their website. Uh, they got 300 million individual visitors that go to their website every month, and everybody's looking for all kinds of different products. So if you go into a specific niche that's high in demand, you're going to do well, and you don't have to run really no ads. Whereas on Shopify, yeah, you can build a good career on that as well, but get your Amazon business going first. And Amazon on Shopify, you have to, as I understand it, run Facebook ads and Google ads, and do some SEO behind the scenes to get people to come to your store from there. Whereas the Amazon's basically a ready-made audience, as long as you pick stuff that has a good BSR, which stands for bestseller ranking. And as far as that goes, anything under 500,000 is a good opportunity for a sale.
Right. And I think probably the biggest advantage, like you said, is cost. You're going to have to pay to learn how to run ads. And a lot of
Yeah.
times you're not going to run, whereas Amazon provides you with the traffic because you're selling other people's brands that are already established. It's just like Jim said, you got to follow the advice of starting very slow. So one last question for you, Jim.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you doing this for everybody out there that wants to know more about drop shipping, as well as seasoned drop shippers. They can definitely learn from the A to Z seller guarantee thing that big bomb drop there. But that is last advice for people that are brand new, first of all. And then second, last piece of advice for seasoned veterans.
The first for people that are new, one of the biggest things I always suffered from was the shiny object syndrome. And there's all these different courses to sign up for this and that. And yeah, I'll get to those sometime. But meaning, oh, I like this course, I like that course, I like this course. But just stick with one thing until you're good at it. It takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. So until you're an expert at something, don't go into something else, and make sure you enjoy what you do. And also get a mentor as well. Follow the example of, if you will, seasoned people. Drop into the weekly webinars if they're held. Have someone that you can talk to at the other end of the phone. I have a couple of those guys that do drop shipping as well, and they say how they respond to seller support if they get an intellectual complaint. And then for seasoned sellers, well, you're going to get discouraged when if you will, stuff happens. But at the same time, it's after your business gets going, it gets mundane, as in any business, and you have to put up with the issues. You have to sort out the issues. And one thing that one of my good friends, Frank McKinney, who's a $50 million home builder, a lot of people are, well, this has nothing. Well, he doesn't do Amazon, but one of the things that he said to me was I was out at 5 o'clock in the morning just walking with him, and he was running out. He was running, and I was walking, and he said, well, building the homes like I am is sort of mundane. It gets mundane after a while, and it sort of struck me. So, as your business gets it'll get mundane, but that's just part of life. But look at the end result of what you're wanting to achieve, and you might not realize what you have at the time, but looking at what you're trying to build, you remind yourself of what you're trying to build and where you were and where you came from. Don't ever forget where you came from to where you want to go.
Yeah, amazing advice, Jim. Hopefully some of the people take that advice to heart and either get started if they haven't already, or they look to expand their business. I mean, I think you provided amazing value, not just for complete beginners, but also for people that are actually running this and probably have had to give away lots of money to A to Z seller guarantees. I mean,
oh yeah,
it was like crazy. But the last thing that I wanted to mention to you, this is a case where, like, I'll say this, Jim and I started this business model at the same time. This is an instance where the student surpasses the teacher, because he smoked the hell out of me. Like, he smoked the hell out of me, but I was always super proud of him. And I was always like encouraging him and asking him to see his screenshots, because I was like just fired up for him. So I'm so happy for you that you've been having this tremendous amount of success. I look forward to your screenshots in the future. And for one, I appreciate all the value and the knowledge you just dropped. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people on here are going to appreciate it too, Jim. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And for you, thank you for all your encouragement. And I appreciate all your webinars and what you teach me as well, because it got me to where I am.
That's amazing. I'm happy to hear that, Jim.
Thank you for a whole lot. And thank you for your friendship.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, shoot them over to me. I will try to answer them for you guys. But other than that, thank Jim if you ever run across him, or thank him on Facebook, or just wherever. Thank you, Jim. Have a great
Welcome.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye.